and welcome back to Live Light. Someone once said, children from the same family are like cookies from the same dough, just pressed out differently. We all know those cookie shapes, a star and a heart and a slightly lopsided dinosaur. I had to laugh when I first heard that because it's the perfect way to describe birth order. Today we're focusing on two cookies from that dough that taste very much alike. Firstborns and only children, the stars. Both often carry the same flavor of responsibility, structure and the drive to get things done. Sometimes they're a bit too much and they like to organize all the other cookies in the tin neatly by color and shape. We're currently in our series on birth order, and I give full credit to Dr. Kevin Lehman and his insightful book, The Birth Order Book. The resource has helped millions better understand themselves and the dynamics in their families. In our previous episodes, we gave an overview of all four major groups, but today we zoom in on two who often mirror each other. Firstborns and only children. But before we dive in, let me remind you about the youngest child. If you're the oldest, you might have had to write an essay explaining to your dad why you need a cell phone. The youngest, on the other hand, they just said, "Please, Dad, I need a phone," and a brand new one appeared the very next day. Youngest children are often the entertainers, the ones who bring the laughter. If there's a stage, even if it's the living room carpet, they'll claim it. These are the kids who could moonwalk at 6, wanted their own YouTube channel at 8, and by 10 had the whole family participating in Friday night talent shows where they were, of course, the host, contestant, and judge. They're the first to arrive at the party and the last to touch a trash bag. Yes, when you're looking for them to clean up and to tidy up, they are just poof, they are just gone. By the time the youngest comes along, Mom and Dad are usually so worn out that rules become more like suggestions than instructions. While the oldest wasn't even allowed to watch TV after 8 p.m., the youngest had their own Netflix profile before they could even read. And then there are the middle children. The ones who always stand slightly off center in family photos, not because they don't matter, but because they've learned to make room for big brother's school blazer and little sister's tutu. These are the kids who, when you ask them where they fit in the family, they say, "I'm the one who figured out how to open the jam jar myself." Often the peacemakers and diplomats, they had to learn early on how to keep siblings from tearing each other apart without ending up with a black eye themselves. They are really expert negotiators, able to talk their way into the last slice of pizza, and if left with just the crust, they'd smile and say, "Oh, that's actually my favorite part anyway." They're natural bridge builders, and although they may not have received the most attention, they gained a master's degree in people skills straight from home. But today, let's zoom in on the classic firstborns and only children, because they often walk a similar path. And maybe after this, you'll better understand why it was such a big deal when Esau gave up his birthright to his younger brother. Now, a firstborn isn't always literally the eldest. It might be the first boy or girl in the family, or someone who stepped into that role due to a large age gap or family change. If you missed part 1 of this series, go back and listen. It'll make all of this even richer. Firstborns and only children often show traits like structure, drive, perfectionism, and natural leadership. They aim high and often feel the weight of responsibility from a very young age. Dr. Kevin Lehman shares a story in his seminars when he divides people in birth order groups. It's always the firstborns and the only children who grab the instructions first and they get straight to work. So there's no surprise there. The middle children are more go with the flow, and the youngest, they're still chatting and cracking jokes. Their paper is untouched. Firstborns tend to be achievers, rule followers, and yes, list makers. They thrive in structure, seek approval, and want to get things done right. At their core, they are leaders. They carry responsibility and they have this drive to succeed. And it shows in almost every area of life. But not all firstborns are the bold, bossy type. Let's talk about the compliant firstborn, the soft-hearted help who's always asking, what can I do? Where can I help? They're loyal, reliable, and often the favorites of teachers and coaches and bosses. Lehman tells a story about his wife Sandy, a classic compliant firstborn. At a fancy restaurant, she was served nearly raw salmon. But she didn't complain. She just smiled and she just nibbled around the edges until her husband stepped in. That's the heart of a compliant firstborn. They just rather suffer in silence than cause a fuss. But here's the catch. Because they're so helpful, they often get taken advantage of. Bosses pile on more work and partners expect too much. And eventually, all that quiet frustration, it builds and eventually it just explodes. So if you're a compliant firstborn or loved one, be gentle. Be gentle with that good heart and never confuse kindness with weakness. And if that's you, remember it's really okay to speak up. You don't have to carry the whole world just because you were a firstborn. Then there's the strong-willed firstborn, determined, fearless, and willing to fight for what they believe in. Unlike the compliant type, the strong-willed firstborn would never, ever stay quiet about that raw salmon. They'd call over the waiter, explain the issue, send the dish back, or order something else entirely. And if it was your raw salmon, they'd speak up on your behalf. Strong-willed firstborns they are go-getters. They know what they want and they won't settle for anything less, whether in the boardroom or the kitchen. They pursue excellence and they expect the same from others. These are your CEOs, perfectionists, marathon runners, the ones who keep pushing and leading and striving. They set high standards for themselves and everybody else. They might relax for a few days on holiday. But as soon as the trip is over, it's back to business mode. And what about only children? Are they a different species? Well, they're often like this, we could call them super firstborns, with a bit of extra polish. With no siblings to compete with, they get their parents' full attention, like an exclusive VIP pass. That kind of focus also comes with very, very high expectations. Like firstborns, they're typically responsible, they are extremely organized, and they are self-driven. But without siblings, they've missed out on sibling dynamics like playful wrestling or sharing toys. They often have to be their own playmate, their own friend, have to entertain themselves. Only children tend to develop strong verbal skills and are usually very comfortable around adults, sometimes more than other kids. But let's be honest, there are challenges too. With no need to compromise or share growing up, they can struggle in group settings. They are used to things happening in their way and on their timeline, which can lead to tension in relationships. Remember, they are used to doing it their way. It's my way or the highway, no other way. So what do firstborns and only children have in common? Definitely perfectionism. They want to get it right, and preferably the first time. They seek approval. They really deeply crave recognition, especially from authority figures. They naturally take the lead in work and social settings. They are very responsible, they're the leaders, they get things done, and they start with, if there's a group work or something has to be done, they organize the group. They have high expectations, not just for themselves, but often for others too. Their differences matter. Firstborns often had to learn how to share and sometimes stepped into mini parent roles. Only children had to learn independence but missed out on sibling dynamics. In adult life, both types often become high achievers. You'll find them, as I said, in leadership roles, professional fields, and places where performance is key. But in relationships, their perfectionism can sometimes cause problems. They might struggle to accept others' differences or even their own mistakes. That's why it is crucial they learn to extend grace to themselves and to others. If you're raising a firstborn or an only child, keep this in mind. It's easy to focus on achievements, especially when your child is a mini adult who takes responsibility so seriously. But your child is more than their grades, their chores, or their trophies. Encourage them to play and relax. Play isn't just for toddlers. It teaches creativity and emotional intelligence and problem solving. Let them know it's not only okay to unwind, but that it's necessary. Teach them that failure it's not fatal when you make a mistake. Some of life's greatest lessons come from mistakes, stumbles, and disappointments. Let them know it's in those moments that real growth begins. Be aware of the weight they carry. Your expectations may be well-meaning, but to a child, they really can feel like a burden. So the trick is to find a healthy balance between motivation and rest, so they don't feel they have to carry the world on their own. Sometimes a simple "I'm proud of you" is all they need just to try again. Just a closing thought. Firstborns and only children bring incredible strength into the world. They are planners, they are organizers, they are visionaries. The world needs people like that. And they offer structure, drive, and leadership. But they also carry heavy loads, expectation, perfectionism, and a deep fear of failure. Yes. And now a word on perfectionism, especially for our firstborns and only children. Lehman explains in his book that perfectionism isn't something to strive for, even though it seems so admirable. Perfectionists are often hardworking, but also extremely hard on themselves. They set impossible standards for themselves and others, and it leads to frustration and burnout and strained relationships. Lehman says perfectionism often stems from a deep need for love and approval, especially for firstborns who may feel like their worth depends on their performance. But there is a better way. Strive not for perfection, but for excellence. Perfectionism says, I must not fail. Excellence says, I will give it my best, and I'll learn when I fail. So if you're exhausting yourself trying to do everything flawlessly, remember, you weren't put on this earth to be perfect. You were made to live fully, present, teachable, and free. Don't measure your worth by a flawless report, a spotless kitchen, or a 90% average. Now, if you recognized yourself or someone you love in this episode, hold this truth close. Behind that strong exterior is often a tender heart longing to hear you are enough. You don't have to get it all right. You are valuable just as you are. If you're curious to explore more, I recommend you read the book. And no, I'm not getting any commission. I just know it helps. And hold on, because next time we're diving into the world of middle children and the beloved babies of the family. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. There'll be laughter, insight, and a few aha moments waiting for you. Until then, keep growing, keep discovering, and always live light.